excited to have our tremendous panel. Let's start with Anna Kasani. Anna, would you mind self-introducing?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Anna Kasani. Oh, there you go. I'm Anna Kasani, VP of Community and Partnerships at Springboard Enterprises. Springboard is a global network of women entrepreneurs. We run programs for women-led tech and healthcare companies. Been around 20 plus years, have 820 now women entrepreneur alumni in our network. And we continue to run programs in digital health, life science, fashion tech. And then I also manage our signature pitch program, the Dolphin Tank, which is a nicer version of Shark Tank. We've been doing them for the last few years in partnership with Women Founders Network, and usually do them across the country in different cities, focusing on different industry verticals, really with the mission of bringing community around women entrepreneurs to help them grow and scale. So currently they are virtual. We have sessions in life science, fintech, and future of food and sustainability coming up. And hopefully we'll be coming to a city near you again soon. And my background is in politics. And then I moved to startups, and I'm now was based in DC and now in Sacramento, California.
Awesome. Well, so the theme of today's show is Show Her the Money. And I know that, Renee, you are a great supporter of women and investor in women. So give us your little intro, please. Thank you.
Sure. Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Daria. I am a big advocate for women in leadership and women's entrepreneurship. I run an advertising and marketing firm, 35 million in size, 22 years. And I'm also on the board of 50/50 Women on Boards, which is a organization to elevate and accelerate the role of women on boards. As a business owner, I have invested in 5 different companies, 3 of which are led by women. And then I have a radio show on ABC, and I use it to highlight women entrepreneurs, often women who won the Women Founders Network. And I'm looking for more women entrepreneurs to be able to feature. I have about 15,000 regular listeners, and then also a podcast. So delighted to be here.
Awesome, Renee. Thank you so much. Stacy Feinberg, thank you. Tell us about yourself, Stacy.
Do I really have to go after Renee? Thanks, Renee. Thanks for that. Anyways, I am so pleased to be here. And I too miss those dolphin tanks because I love me a good dolphin tank. I think it is a ton of fun, and I think we do a lot of good work. And I look forward to, joining the next one, hopefully back in person. My background is I ran a hedge fund for years, and public equities couldn't be more different than what we're doing here with, founders and startups. Quite frankly, I never felt very proud of what we did. We made rich people richer. And when I closed the hedge fund, I said, I want to do something at the grassroots level. I want to make a difference. I want to have a legacy. And so I started doing a little research, and I found out I had done a little bit of PE, but I discovered venture capital and angel investing in particular. And I found out the lousy news that only 4% of all of that money was going to women and minorities. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to level the playing field. And I don't know how I'm going to do it, but there's got to be a way. And so I taught myself. I joined groups. I joined Women Founders Network. I joined Golden Seeds. I joined a different couple of angel networks, OC Angels. And little by little, and from all these wonderful mentors and great women in my life, I've discovered there's no great secret to doing this. You just have to have passion, the resources, and the drive to do it. And I now find that one of the greatest pleasures I have is to teach other women how to do it. And a lot of women, for reasons I don't know, think that not for profit is wonderful, for profit is horrible. And I'm trying to teach them that for profit can be equally satisfying, and that if you even have a philanthropic thought to it, that out of your 10 investments, like many industries, 8 will not make it. They just won't. It's just the way it is. It's a mathematical probability. 1, you'll get your money back. That's a win. And one of them is going to be a 10, 20x that's going to subsidize all the others. So think about those other 8 philanthropically. But you tried to make a dream come true, a product come to life, the world a better place. You rolled the dice, you gave it a shot. That's wonderful. And the one that really does make a difference can be a legacy for you. So that's where I am. And by the way, you can take all those fabulous profits and give checks to your favorite charity. if that's what you choose to do. So that's where I'm at now, and I couldn't be happier. And I wake up every day with a renewed sense of purpose.
So beautiful, Stacey. That you often talk about that, and it's so powerful. So thank you for that. Mimi.
My greetings on because my jaw's on the ground right now.
I think we all ought to mute ourselves if we're not speaking.
Stacey, you completely stole my thunder, and I'm followed by Anna and Renee. And I used to go to the dolphin tanks, and I just love what we were doing before I started investing in women founders. So I am an angel investor. I run an angel investing group of 100 members. 90% of them are men. We've invested about $94 million in over 200 companies. I'm also an entrepreneur. I've started my own businesses. I have a consulting company, and I'm investing in companies. I'd like to have about 75% of my allocation be towards female founders and 25% for maybe an exceptional guy or two. And Stacey really has covered everything I've wanted to talk about angel investing. Really is, I'm also on the board of a couple of nonprofits, really amazing impact boards. And, as board members, we have to commit to a certain amount per year in donations. And I don't have a problem writing those checks, but, and I know my fellow female board members don't have those same feelings about no problem with committing to $10,000, $20,000 in donations to these great impactful causes. But when we ask them about angel investing, there is this kind of, I would say, hesitancy. That's the word I hear also all the time is gambling. It's gambling. And I think the best thing I learned from angel investing was the phrase, angel investing is a donation until you get an exit, because it's a liquid investment that when you write that check to whoever it is you believe in, and it's a personal relationship, you're writing a check to someone you believe in. You want them to grow their business. You want them to see their vision. You're on that journey with them. And I also consult and advise founders when they do their pitch. And I said, the first thing you want to do is take us on that journey. Tell us about your journey and make us want to travel with you. Make us want to carry those bags for you and be your evangelist. And I would love to see more women. Stacey, same thing, 4%. Now it's at 2%, right? It's dropped. And I've tried to bang the drums and make as much noise as I can and really educate my fellow angel investors who are men. I think it's important to have women be involved in the conversation and write the checks, but also let's have men be involved in this. Let them realize investing women founders is actually a good investment. It's a great investment. We all know those studies. We've had McKinsey, we had Harvard Business Review. So many studies have shown that when you invest in female founders, you have a better return. So, let's take sex out of the equation. Let's talk about positive returns. So that's the kind of conversations I hope we can continue to have. And while we're at it, Daria, thank you for starting Women Founders Network. It has been such a joy to be a part of this organization, seeing young girls see themselves as leaders, funders, and founders, and creating this new ecosystem for us all. So I'm going to shut up right now.
Thank you, Mimi. You're amazing. Thank you, all you wonderful women. My next question has to do with this. So women today in the United States control a very significant pool of capital. By the end of the decade, women will control $30 trillion, which is roughly equal to the gross domestic product annual of the United States, right? And so given that paradigm, Renee, you sit on 50-50 women on boards. Investors invest in stocks that are companies that have boards. Why is it that a pool of capital that controls 30 trillion isn't telling those companies that they invest in to have gender equity, right? That's one question. And then, the other question is, how do we get that 30 trillion to solve these inequities, these capital access issues? It seems like a real disconnect where, What do you guys think about that? Let's start with Renee, and then we'll go to Anna and Stacy and Mimi. So,
you know, it's an interesting conundrum you bring up, Daria. I think, you know, I'm a psychologist by training, and I've been pondering this a lot. Unfortunately, women are risk averse. And a couple of the women here mentioned that. So investing is not something that comes to them, right? And I think Mimi talked about it as gambling. And in some ways it is, right? You're investing in the potential of something. As was pointed out, you want to help those folks in terms of connections, et cetera. But I think we have to ask ourselves as women, how do we talk to other women and bring them into the tent? And 50-50 women on boards is about gender balance, gender equity. And you ask, you know, how do we even increase that? We're only at 25% of women on boards. And a big reason we're there is there's a law in California that says if you don't have 3 women by the end of 2021, you pay a fine, $100,000 per person or per seat, 3 seats, $300,000. And in California, we're now doing one with diversity. So it does take a lot of people. Candidly, it's not going to happen if it's just women. One of the biggest issues that I have raised with women on boards is we have to have more men at the table. We just did a Dean's Dialogue with the head of the business school at USC. He volunteered to be a champion for women. And what we have to do is galvanize those men, give them a path, use them, and broaden the awareness. Because I think it also, sad to say, if a woman's brother or her husband also encourages her to invest, she's going to be more likely, just as she would if her girlfriend tells her. So we need to surround sound of the message, invest and support women founders, women entrepreneurs, and we'll get more equity that way.
that's great. Anna, you've been building with Springboard. I think Springboard probably was one of the very, very early. Kay was so on to this and trying to get women to support and invest in women and help women founders build scalable, investable businesses. So what are your thoughts around the $30 trillion question?
The $30 trillion question, a lot of pressure. No, I mean, I think one of the more encouraging things that we've seen in Springboard and something that we try and cultivate is that we spend so much time not only on the programs and making sure that the companies that are raising capital have the connections to do so, but we're cultivating our community of women founders who then turn into investors. And so we recently featured a handful of investments that were made by Springboard alumni to Springboard alumni. And so I think that's critical, not only just within these kind of tighter knit communities like Springboard, but other networking opportunities where women who potentially have the capital to invest can get involved in groups where then they can build trust and invest. Because I think that's a huge reason why some of these women have invested in this within the Springboard network is they know what kind of company Springboard works with. And so that's an automatic de-risk, right, of the investment itself. So I think, that's something that we've seen that's very encouraging. We'd love to do more or share more resources with our specific community on how women can get trained, more involved, kind of not destigmatized. I hope it's not stigmatized, but kind of move past any, stereotypes or misconceptions that come with investing so that they can invest in not only Springboard companies, but otherwise. But I do think like building your network and kind of first networking with those companies or founders or going to pitch events and getting to know them. I think that also, women love helping people that they know. And so I think that could be a big piece of it as well.
Stacy, you have been not only amazing in the way that you're supporting women founders, but also the teaching that you're doing to try to elevate not girls and young people, but also other women into this, and also the collaboration that you bring to the universe. Because I find that there's so many women trying to help other women, but these efforts are so fragmented, and the effort is far greater than the capital that is coming out of that, the investment capital that's coming out. So you're great at creating these big tents and universes and connecting. So tell us what your thoughts are on this.
Well, I appreciate that because I do take great pride and joy out of that. So thank you for saying that. One of the things that I do is I do try to teach women of whatever means that they may have. And really the check sizes can be whatever it is. There's just a matter of how many additional zeros. But again, like I said to you before, what I try to tell them is, if you can think of the fact that whatever you're investing in, and it can be, investment agnostic, but the one thing that should be part of your investing thesis is that you should be very, very proud of what you're behind. So if it doesn't go up your way, and if it does go under and it doesn't work out, it was something that would have really rocked the world. It's something that your grandchildren would have been really proud of you, knowing that you were a part of and you really gave it a shot. So that's one of the things that I would say, because it will sting less if it's something that is going to help chemotherapy patients, right? It's going to sting less if it's going to help people who, to try to help genome therapy for Parkinson's, something that is a greater good. So people might call it impact investing. I just think it's soulful investing. That's something that, I still feel good about it, even if it doesn't, work our way. And I love to get women together again to, I think it's fun. I say it's the new book club, and get together. And instead of discussing the book, we're going to discuss these three women founders and their ideas and the problems and the things that basically, it's not that hard to teach, quite frankly. It really isn't. Now, when I'm looking at public equities, it's very different than private markets, because at the private level, at the seed level of what we're doing, I'm betting on a problem, a sizable problem, a solution to that problem, and a person who's going to solve the problem. That's all it is. And a lot of that is luck. And you know what, Mimi? Yeah, a lot of it's gambling. But so what? We take a gamble every day, and life isn't exciting if you don't take gambles and you don't take risks. So there's not a secret sauce. You do the best you can. I think it is actually a lot easier investing at the seed level than it is at later stage levels, when the dollars there's a lot more zeros in your check. So you have to do a lot more due diligence. You have a lot more sophistication. As I said in the beginning, it's something that's relatable, something that is something you'd be proud to be a part of. Maybe it solves a problem of yours. Those things are very relatable things. So I love making the tent as big as possible. I love sharing this. Women are collaborative by nature. We really aren't competitive, unless, of course, it's doubles tennis. Then, yes, we are competitive. But by a pretty large margin, I think and when I have women come into and pitch to me, I say to them, please relax. You're amongst friends. We want you to do great. If you need to take a minute to compose yourself, do whatever you need. But we are on the same. Please don't think of us as adversaries. Don't think of me as somebody you have to impress. Think of me as somebody that you're going to share the story with. You're going to, I can't remember who said it, but take me on this journey with you. I think it was Mimi. Because I'm really eager to help you, and I want you to do your best. And you might not leave with a check, but I promise you won't leave empty-handed. You'll leave with a strategic partner. You'll leave with some information you didn't have. You'll leave with something, but I will make sure I made it worth your time.
Great, Stacey. Thank you so much. Mimi, you are really a change agent in your world of angel investing, in that, you're investing with a pretty large group of men, and really being a champion for female founders and female-run businesses and trying to elevate those. So share a little with us your perspective on that. Renee said we're going to need men to change the paradigm here, and certainly you're in that role where you can be a catalyst for those discussions. So tell us a little more about that.
Well, it's funny that we're talking about this on Mother's Day, right? We're all moms, and we wouldn't be moms without men. And my background, I was pre-med. I didn't become a doctor and became, by default, my mother's second favorite daughter. But what I feel is, my life has always been driven by empirical data. I mean, as women, I'm really emotional. I've actually invested emotionally, and I think that's fine. But for the most part, I look at things from an empirical perspective. And I know with my husband in trying to buy our first house, I laid out an Excel spreadsheet about all the savings we had. And I showed him studies about how children did better because he was, when he just got his PhD and he didn't want to invest in $500,000 rundown. So, essentially, I laid out the foundation of the data and the statistics on why this is a good investment for us. And I think I've approached that with my counterparts who happen to be male. So I agree with Renee that we do need to bring men into this and to recognize that when you invest in female founders, the other 50% of this population, you are actually making a really good, data-driven choice to drive the economy forward and to give jobs and to grow the economy, all those things. But then on the other side, we have to bring women up to be funders. We have to have them be advocates for female founders. We have to have them open up their checkbook and write those checks and tap into that $30 trillion, So how do you do that? And I think we are, as a sex, risk adverse. You look at I've seen all those studies. I'm sure, Daria, you've seen them too. Is that women are much more risk adverse. We take longer time to think things through. So we need both men and women, and we can all work together on that. I think that's fantastic. And I think Renee also said that in California, the reason why we have more women on the board is because there's a law. There's a law that's in place that is asking you to do that. And so we also probably need governmental policies that make sense to drive our agenda forward.
One of the key things that I talk to people about often is, this is a new thing that I've started thinking about, is when you think about your investment portfolio, who's touching your money, right? And if you really think about who's touching your money on a gender diversification basis, right, it'll probably be that 98% of your money is being touched by men and 2% of your money may be touched by women. That, if you think about that allocation in the end, that's typical. I mean, it might vary here and there. So I always think about that in terms of talent as well, right? Does that mean that talent is distributed that way? Do we believe that, women, have 2% of the talent? Is that what that says? And so I like to now think about that and talk about it at times with people who are willing to listen. And I think that, the thing that you, Mimi, pointed out is that, there's needs to be education, there needs to be collaboration and connection, which will get us to the next stage, but also just the fun of supporting female founders. I mean, I find it to be so energizing and fun through Women Founders Network to meet all these founders every year, to really get to know, 5 to 10 of them every year. And that personal relationship that you build with, the founders of these companies. And Anna, you've been great about, getting to know these founders and, staying in touch with them and really building connections over time. These are individual, amazing people who dare to be entrepreneurs. And we know that entrepreneurship is the pathway for creating wealth in the United States. We're proud to be capitalists, and that's the essence of capitalism, right? And so what do you think about that, Anna? You guys do such a great job. I mean, who has done more for female founders than Springboard, truly?
Yeah, I mean, I just did a panel with 3 of our entrepreneurs in the fashion tech space, one in kind of B2B technologies, and one who, she was an exec at Target and saw a huge, massive market opportunity in the wound care space and started Sweet Bio with an interesting ingredient involving honey. that I think is going to be revolutionary. And I mean, just listening to these women, like I was learning things, like left and right, just the things that you can just hear the passion in their voice, not only for their product, but about like making it accessible for other people to do this too. And, we talked about limiting beliefs and that some women just need to remember, like, you are the only one in your own way. And so I think that can relate to investing as well. If you don't take the risk, if you don't put yourself out there, if you don't try to network, it's not going to come fall in your lap. And so, something that we do through our programs and, I know our advisors encourage too is, you are the expert in your space. You are the thought leader in this area. Use that to your advantage. And so that's something our philosophy on the community side is not only making sure that entrepreneurs are connected to each other and to external resources, and they continue to get the introductions they need to investors and external resources, but that we're continuously showcasing them as thought leaders, because I think that also contributes to the perception in the outside world that women are, running the world more or less, across industry. And I think also just an interesting point, it's a little bit unrelated, but just in terms of something that we saw from Springboard from day one was that, as the tale goes, that Amy and Kay were talking to male investors saying, why don't you invest? Why isn't your portfolio made up of women-led companies? And they said, well, if there were venture-backable women-led companies, we'd be investing in them. And so they said, well, there are plenty. We'll just make the introduction and then you have to invest. And so something I feel strongly about is like the pipeline is there. I understand, we're not trying to give handouts to women to say 20% of our portfolio has to be women, but you have to see 20% more companies first before you can make that decision. And so I think, expanding that pipeline, having male advocates, making sure that people are opening their eyes to different groups, whether that be diversity in race or gender or whatever it is, open the pool to then make a decision. Because if your pool's narrow, you're never going to get the numbers that, should be represented. So just another story.
Yeah. Renee, you know that story. The pipeline is there, and tell us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, the pipeline is there. And we sound the same thing with women on boards. Men, we have a big event in November. LA will do 600-700 people, and we do 30 cities around the country. And we invite men as panelists, and they walk in the room and they said, I had no idea there were this many women that are capable of being on a board. It's like, when they leave, because of the nature of the questions and the dialogue, because we do these individual tables, they're always shocked. And it's like, well, of course, we've been here all the time. So that you're right. I think it's great to be able to advocate for, at least see them, right? And we know that's from an inclusivity point of view. I was going to make a point, though, and I'm sorry, my camera went out for whatever reason. I actually invest not to be inspired. I love Stacy's mantra, and I give to nonprofits to be inspired, and I sit on several boards, but I invest to make money, and I have sat with an angel group before. I've been with several of them, and as you said, they're 90% men or 95. And boy, it's all about making money. So I feel it's important that we let women founders know that they've got to demonstrate that. They've got to be strong and aggressive. And can't be out of character, I understand. But candidly, to get the big money, you're going to be competing. I can see, young men, young women, and the ones who have the passion and are really going to get it done, that's where I'm going to write the bigger check, because I figure I'm going to get a return. Now, some people may invest for the other reasons, and it just doesn't happen to be me. And then the last point I was going to make is that the first investment I did was because another woman had invested. It's a robot company. She was an engineer, and I trusted her judgment because, like many women, I was like, okay, I know marketing and advertising and psychology. I don't know about engineers, but I did my little bit due diligence about robots, and boy, then she really educated me. So I think us each educating each other is really important as well. But we can't ignore the fact that most people invest to make money on the investments.
No, that's very true. That's very true. Stacey, did you want to comment on that?
Well, yeah, I trust me when I tell you that it is not. I don't let diminished returns, get in the way just because it's something that pulls at my heartstrings. So I see enough things that I can be picky and choosy enough. So it still has to meet the other criteria. It still has to meet the criteria of having an enormous, problem with an extraordinary disruptive solution with a badass team that, I can count on. So those things. Now, don't get me wrong. The house I'm in was paid for by Peloton. Okay, so thanks to that, and that's run by John, by a man. Okay, I invested in 2014, and we had an IPO, and we're taking a hit right now. But I sold most of mine back in December, and great, thank you. But you know what that does? That gives me more money to be able to then put into women-run companies, and that's the way that I look at it. So yeah, I have bills to pay, but then I can utilize that. To be able to do these other things. But I am all for making money. And I agree with you, Renee. And that.
So am I.
So
I'm all for that. And
one other thing that I like to do, by the way, is not just show other women. I have a lot of women who are late stage entrepreneurs. They've had the company for 5-6 years. They're preparing for their exit. And I start preparing them to start putting that money and their resources to go from their entrepreneurial hat to being, from being a founder to being a funder. Because pretty soon, and some of them have sold their shares in the secondary market for whatever reason, because they've got bills to pay themselves. And others are really on the precipice of becoming very wealthy women. And so I start to prepare them for what to do and how to handle that wealth. And one of the things that I like to do, my fund is self-funded. I'm fortunate enough that I did do well enough in my previous life for that. But one of the things that I do like to do is teach, again, prepare people for when this is, going to happen for them. I think that we can wear multiple hats, but what we really need to do also is support the female fund managers. And so one thing that I've done this year is I took a certain amount of capital, 7 figures, I'm proud to say, and I distributed amongst 10 women that started funds. And I'm committed to be an LP in almost every female fund. Now, again, Renee, just because you're a woman doesn't mean that I'm going to be writing you a check just to be an LP in your fund. You still have to have a fantastic pedigree and a background for me. But I'm if it's between you and Joe Lonsdale, you know what? I'm going to give it to you. But she's pretty good. She's right up there with Joe Lonsdale, if you know what I mean. So that is another thing that we can do. If you are anxious about funding people individually, give it to a professional, but give it to a woman. And there's a lot more of those out there, and we really need to help them. And I'm going to make sure that I participate in as many as possible.
Thank you, Stacey, for doing that. And that is such a key point because the capital raising, who's not on mute? The capital raising ability of female fund managers, the data is very similar to female entrepreneurs. So you have that 2-4% thing applying to female fund managers as well. Mimi, tell us kind of your story about that personal experience of, when you're investing in seed stage companies, you're really betting obviously on all the other parameters that Stacey mentioned, but the entrepreneur herself is such a key factor. So tell us how that has played into your investing.
So, I have the pleasure of investing portfolio. I think I have 7 companies right now. And then I'm an LP in a healthcare fund. And I think that's, I'm really looking at that, encouraging the fund managers to invest in people of color and women. And they've had a couple of, different showcases. I'm excited about that. That's what I do as an LP. And when I have more resources, I'm going to do exactly what Stacey does, is invest in more female portfolio, all raise, all those wonderful big names, and then small funds, But for my female founders, I think they've been really aggressive in going after funding. I had a young woman, reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, I noticed you're an investor. I want you to write a check for me in a beauty product. It was like a one product. But amazingly, in this one product, she's built it out and had $1 million in revenue in just 1 year. And I'm thinking, well, maybe you should reconsider consumer products, Mimi, instead of healthcare, instead of, the do-gooder stuff, the impact investment, maybe you should consider this. So I had a conversation with her and she was incredibly dynamic. And here's the thing, her co-founder is her husband. And he's brought 2 companies through an exit. He knew the financial aspect. He really knew the marketing. He had connections to VC. But she was the one who was the creative, who built that brand out. Her marketing skills were fantastic. I did. And this is where I think a network of other female angels would be helpful. I did the homework myself. I found out that the market with legacy makeup company was really ripe for disruption, and they would be really, positioned well in an acquisition rather than IPO. I looked at the total addressable market, did, an entire day's worth of research, brought it to my team, and we funded her, gave her $250,000 within 45 days from the time I spoke with her. And while we spoke, I coached her on her pitch. I told her exactly what I knew my team wanted to hear. And she got that funding in 45 days, which was really unusual for an angel investing group. And our sidecar fund threw in another $100,000. And then we've got Willamette Angels, which is another group. I think they put in like $75,000. I gave my marketing research to the team there. And I said, take a look at this, do your own external research on this. But I think this is a good investment. And it was. And she's grown tremendously. I'm so proud of her team. She's so inclusive. It's an inclusive beauty brand. And I think that's really important right now. And she did that before all the big movements. And I never ever thought, because I don't, really makeup. I go to Rite Aid and I buy Maybelline, right? It's easy, it's done. But that was one of the situation where the female founder reached out to me, told her personal story, showed me her vision, and knock on wood, I think this is wood, I will have a nice return on that. So it was one of those things where I was able to think outside of the box. We'll see. But, that's one.
That's a great story. So thank you so much. One of the things that we do with Women Founders Network, which we have a fast pitch coming up, our applications are open now. I hope that if you're a female founder listening to this program, you'll go ahead and take a look at womenfoundersnetwork.com and take a look at our application and apply to our fast pitch. Our process is basically women like Stacy and Renee and Mimi and Anna are involved in looking at the applicants, and we pick 5 to 10 companies to come to our fast pitch in October. But one of the beautiful things that we do, because we need more women in venture, is educate the next generation of women. Girls in the grade 6 to 12 participate in a program that Stacy's very involved in, our junior judges program. And Stacy has been a great teacher to these girls, these rock star girls who take a look at these businesses and learn how to be venture capitalists for a day. So Stacy, just tell us a little about your involvement teaching those girls every year. I love watching you do it.
I love the junior judges. That's what they're called, the junior judges program. These are girls who are between 12 and 17. The questions that, first of all, they come to us really knowing nothing, which is perfect. And we teach them both sides of the coin, right? How to be an entrepreneur, and then how to be a founder, how to be a funder. And one of my favorite things is when we start talking about narrowing it down to the top 10. And what I find I do is there's the whole books for dummies, taxes for dummies, real estate for dummies. And so I try to make it almost like, venture capital for dummies. But I use words that kids would understand. So when I tell them, there's going to be a lot of words that sound very fancy, and trust me, they're not. So when you hear the word capital, it's money. And when you hear due diligence, it's homework. And when you hear, so whatever it is, equity, it's ownership of, what you own. And I basically say to them, okay, you've been babysitting every Saturday night for a year. You have saved up $500. Out of these 5 companies, which one of them will you loan them your $500? Because that's basically what you're doing. What do they need to do to show you that they're worthy, reliable? You're probably going to get your $500 back, but more importantly, maybe you're going to get $1,500 back. What is it going to take? What are the questions you're going to ask? What are you going to look for? Which one of these ideas do you think are going to give you the best? And I have them feel a sense of ownership while they're doing this. So it's not something that's very remote. And then the other thing that I often teach, I do a lot at USC, at the Marshall School and different schools. And maybe I'm an East Coast girl, but I'll watch them come in with, like they came in from the beach. And I'll be the first one to say, I'm a bank. Would you come to look for a mortgage in shorts and Daisy Dukes and flip-flops? Probably not, right? So when you're asking for money, when you have a startup, come prepared, come dressed appropriately. And again, I teach these little subtle things to the girls. Love is in the details. So I just hope that all these little things that they hear from me, that hopefully maybe someday they'll click. And I'll tell you who really loves it the most is the moms. A lot of them will stay and they'll listen in, and I will hear from the moms afterwards. And the mom will say, oh, I have a recipe and I've always wanted to be able to, somehow bottle it and can it and sell it. And, could I talk to you afterwards? Or they'll say, boy, I wish I had a class like this. I probably would have taken a different path. And they're just happy that their daughters become financially savvy, because I personally believe that the most important thing that every high school senior needs to have before they go off to college is a class on, the basics, of finances. What's a bank account? What's a savings versus a checking? What's the interest rates? Renting versus owning, leasing versus buying. I call it dollars and cents, SENSC. I wish I could provide that to, every woman who's getting ready to get divorced, every kid who's going to college, you name it. There's a lot of things, unfortunately, that are very practical that get missed. So I love having the opportunity with these girls year after year. And I hope that maybe if one or two things sticks with them, and I explain, just because you still have checks in your book doesn't mean that you have money in your checking account. Does it, in other words, how to balance that checkbook, because I know 57-year-old women that don't understand how their check bounced because they still have checks in their checkbook. So it might be simple, but
Stacey, I love watching you do that educational session with the junior judges, and hopefully we can do that live. We are starting to get some questions in the chat room. I'm not exactly sure when we're supposed to end, but I have a feeling it's in about 10 minutes or so. So if there's any questions, please put them in the chat room. There was a question that's very good. And the question is there a class for us older women that is as basic as the girls' class that Stacey's talking about? Anna, maybe you can talk about that, because you guys have a lot of educational tools at Springboard.
Honestly, I can speak to the fact that I think going and listening to our Dolphin Tank pitch sessions is a fantastic way to get the basics of what someone should be presenting in an idea. Because when you drill down to first, you have an idea, you need to be able to present it in a way that someone wants to keep talking to you. And if you can't do that, then you're not going to get much further in how do I structure it? How do I get funding? Who are going to be my advisors? You have to message your business or idea in a compelling way. So I guess that's just been my experience with it. And that's luckily we do the Dolphin Tank pitch program so that we can access and help and build community around companies that may not be at the right stage for our kind of later stage accelerator program. And we can work with folks that have, kind of closer to idea stage. But yeah, the internet. There's so many resources now that are at the fingertips of so many more people, and I think almost to a detriment, where you're kind of having to seed through what is helpful and what isn't, and what's simple and what's complicated. But I know just from not coming from the startup background and coming from politics and then jumping into it, listening to hundreds of pitches teaches you a lot about business. So
Well, there are so many groups now that are focused on women investing in women, like the wonderful forum that we are involved in today, like organizations like Always, which is a group that organizes women in venture capital. We actually had the opportunity through Show Her the Money, our podcast for the Women Founders Foundation, to interview a number of the women in venture, and they talked about why and how they support women and how they invest. But before we get to any further, I noticed Mimi, Stacey, you shared something that can be useful to Sushila, who asked the nice question. Renee, did you have any thoughts on that, on ways to get educated? Okay. Well, one of the things that's really on my mind these days is the fact that we need to have greater collaboration in all of the groups that are helping women invest together. And also not just invest, forget the investments, just supporting other women and supporting women founders. That greater collaboration. There's so many little tiny fragmented efforts. I wish there was a way that we could all be plugged in. We all do a good job because we know each other, of connecting with each other, but there's so many others out there. There's too little right now to compete. We all need to collaborate to kind of grow the pie. So this is something I'm really passionate about, is getting all the different efforts that are around women and supporting women, investing in women together to collaborate and support. Any thoughts on that from anyone? Any ideas?
Yeah, I'll just jump in. One, I know Alice, Hello Alice, who, they launched a few different community groups. I know they're doing a monthly call for ecosystem builders. So that's organizations supporting entrepreneurs, many of them supporting women entrepreneurs. So I've been in touch with their partnerships person and putting together this monthly call. I think it's really interesting just to meet more organizations doing in the same space so that you can just get to know more people and collaborate where you should collaborate. Because sometimes it's just visibility, knowing who's out there. So I do know that that's been a great resource. And then, on our side, we started the Women's Health Innovation Coalition last year to bring together anyone and everyone with a stake in women's health. So that's entrepreneurs, investors, policy folks, researchers, and it's now a coalition of 200 plus organizations, no financial commitment, just access to our online community platform and your logo on the site. And so, that's something that we're really proud of, and something where we didn't want to recreate any wheel. We just wanted to bridge the gap between those communities, because through our women's health events, we found that, the researchers are really interested in the policy, and the innovators want to know what's going on in the science and research world. So that's been very encouraging to see the success of that so far as well.
By the way, there's also angel lists. I just want to make that recommendation to people. So if you have a product and you're wondering what angel group might be appropriate for this, you can go to angel lists and look for something that's similar to what you're doing and find out who's already funded that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah. One of the things that, we love to do for our women founders who apply to our Fast Budget Women Founders Network is, we get about 150 a year to really help them with an educational kind of format before the application deadline. And that educational format allows them to really think about their business and see if they're quite ready for applying to this fast pitch. Because, can you answer all those questions? Are you solving a problem? Do you have a scalable business model? Can you build a team? Can you actually execute on a plan? So those are some of the things that we do. So that education up front. So it's been interesting for us because many founders have told us just filling out our application, because of the fact that it was organized and asking them critical questions that would basically roll into a business plan, was more thinking about their business than they had done previously. So just filling that application out was a help to them in giving them some direction as to how to move forward. Of course, if you go through that application process and then you're selected to be one of the top 10 or top 5, you get a lot of mentorship along the way. which allows you to prepare for that dolphin tank that we do with Springboard Enterprises as a practice pitch and our subsequent pitches. So any of these experiences that you can kind of gather through the networks that are out there. But my mantra for, the rest of this year is, how do I get more collaboration and community among all the organizations that are about women investing in women, so that we can together grow the pie. So that's kind of my big mission. Well, with that, ladies, I wanted to give you all a chance to say some final words. I'm so grateful to you for sharing your wisdom and your thoughts here. And I love the fact that you each come at it from very different perspectives. Anna from Springboard, Stacy from all the amazing work that you do with your own investing, with your educational work and your philanthropy. Renee, your work with, your own angel investing, but your radio show, which is phenomenal. I've been on the radio show, and I'm grateful for that, and so have many of our founders, and also your tremendous work on the 50-50 Women on Boards. Mimi, your work in kind of building the universe and the angel investing that you're doing, and of course, supporting other organizations like Women Founders Network and Women Founders Foundation. So with that, let me have you each just share some final words before we wrap it up. So let's start with Stacy. Thank you.
I was just thinking, the ACA, the Angel Capital Association, we almost need to have one that's for women, a women's Angel Capital Association. So maybe that's something
we'll
talk about.
We'll do that
next time we get that, so we can help collaborate. Because again, I think that everybody would love to have one resource or have something that would be a little bit easier to access. So anyways, I just wanted to say I felt very honored to be on this panel today. You're all extraordinary women. Renee, tell me what I got to do to get on your show. I can tap dance, I can jazz hands, you let me know. Anyway, and I want to really just shout out to you, Daria, because, what's that? You're on.
Renee was talking.
Okay, I just wanted to say thank you to Daria. I just wanted to say thank you to Women Founders Network, because you really helped me get from 0 to 60. And you welcomed me with open arms. I had the desire, I just needed the direction and some education. And Women Founders Network was there for me, and now I will be there for Women Founders Network. And I think that's really a virtuous cycle that I hope that we can continue. So thank you.
Great. Yeah. I mean, I think the only thing that came up for me, kind of in actually Renee's comment about, investing because another woman had invested, in trusting her. And then my previous comments on being a thought leader is that I think if women really think about things that they have expertise in, that can be a starter for where you start investing. So if you've been a health and wellness expert for 20 years and you have some extra capital, start looking in that space. You know it better than anyone. So that's kind of my last kind of tie it with a bow. I think everyone is a thought leader in something. And especially if you've been successful or you are growing your career, you can keep that in mind, that as you grow your expertise, not only for your career, you can then give back and support innovation coming up through that same field. So that's all I have to say. Thank you again, Daria. And yeah, it's an honor to be part of the WFN community.
Renee or Mimi, did you want to share some final thoughts? Renee, you're on mute.
She said her microphone might be.
Yeah, the microphone's not working.
There we go.
But I'll just say thank you. Now I think
thank you. Thank you so much.
It's been an honor to be on this. Thank you so much.
You're awesome.
Let's loop arms with men and get them involved.
Yes. That's good.
I just think the connection here is you, Daria, and that you created this, you started this ball rolling, this incredible, like this, it's a tiny, tiny little snowdrop that's become this big, gigantic snowball. And hopefully it will educate. And I love that aspect about educating young girls. So we know and it's a whole, I think, the interconnected neural network in creating these connections that will grow and build. So Daria, you created this, and I think hopefully the network will grow larger and more dynamic than it already has. So thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Thank you. Well, I love all of you. Thank you so much. And Stacey, I love your idea about the Women's Angel Capital Association thing. We'll pursue that.
I have that, so I will be happy to talk to you both about
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you, ladies. Really enjoyed seeing you here today. Grateful to you. And I think it's a wrap. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.